Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Bekah, good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, it's my pleasure. Thank you for joining me. I'd like to first ask how you describe yourself these days.
Busy. It's never ending, but in terms of who I am and what I do, I am coming to the technical world into coding after 10 years of teaching in the humanities. I taught English at the college level for 10 years, and now I am doing Flatiron School, which I love, and I am running a blockchain challenge with Moms Can Code, which is also a very fantastic experience. So kind of describe myself as someone who's doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely. You sound someone who definitely has a lot on their plate, which is amazing. So, let's start from the beginning a little bit then. What made you want to go to school to study English?
It's so funny because I always had a love for literature. I always felt that I understood it and it understood me. And I also loved math. And so in high school, I took Calc 1 my senior year, and I wanted to take Calc 2 my first semester as a freshman, but they didn't offer it. So I ended up in a literature class. I thought, this is definitely the place for me. Literature helps me to understand the world in ways that other things can't. So that's how I ended up in English, and I just kept going until I got my master's, and I started teaching and trying to pass that passion on to students as well.
Yeah, exactly. So what was there a particular specialty, I think, that you were teaching at the college level, or just something basic?
So because I was an adjunct, I kind of got sent every course that nobody else wanted to teach. But I did one semester get to teach screenwriting, which is a total passion of mine. And that was the highlight of anything I had ever taught, because it's just, I don't know, fantastic to connect with other people on things that you are really passionate about or things that drive you.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, so you're going along as a professor for 10 years, and then suddenly you decide to switch over and work in the tech world as a coder. So I'm curious on how that process happened.
Okay, yeah, this is just a bizarre story. So I will pass it along. I had no intentions 2 years ago of switching. I was pretty happy in my job, and I liked what I was doing. And then I had 3 kids at the time, and I was pregnant. And I gave birth to my 4th kid. And while I was giving birth, 2 of my organs ruptured. And they didn't know it. I kept saying, something's wrong. And they sent me home. And so for a month, I lived with these unbearable symptoms until I had surgery, which was an extensive recovery. So it's taken me about 18 months to get back to where I wanted to be. That was almost 2 years ago, so I'm just past that mark. Yeah. But anyway, the situation left me with anxiety and PTSD. So I was medicated and I was going to counseling, but PTSD, I never understood it until I had it, but so I was cycling everything that happened to me over and over in my brain, nonstop, 24 hours a day. If I was awake, I was remembering all of the moments where these traumatic things happened to me. And my husband is a developer, and he said, hey, why don't you try coding? And I said to him, you've got to be kidding me. Like I don't have enough on my plate. And at that point, I was still working. I was teaching online. I'm trying to raised 4 children and to get over everything that had happened to me. Mm-hmm. But he just kind of like kept asking me, like, or telling me, hey, try free code camp. Free code camp's awesome. And so I think probably just to appease him, I was like, fine, I'll do it. But when I did it, for the first time, those traumatic moments stopped cycling in my head. I was so focused on coding and what I was doing that it stopped. And I had a peace and a restfulness that I hadn't had in months. And then I also found that I really enjoyed it. So on top of it stopping my PTSD in those moments, enjoying it, I found the great community of Moms Can Code, which was really supportive. And I started doing some free stuff with Flatiron School, and I just fell in love. I thought they understand how to teach me, and that was it. So that's where I am now.
That's amazing. And that is by far the most, I'll say dramatic story into coding that I have heard so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it, do you think, about coding that allows you to focus on one thing at a time and actually forget about some of the trauma that you had?
Yeah, I'm honestly not really sure. I think there's a couple of things that have helped, and one is learning a new skill. So, after this all happened, I tried writing some like pilots and screenplays, which I got through, but it didn't require the intense focus because I'd been used to doing it. I had done it so many times. So here there's something new. There was something to decode. So in my mind, there's this puzzle. And so like when you're writing a screenplay or something else, you don't realize that you kind of know there's going to be an ending, right? And you're creating this ending. Right. But when you're coding, somebody has created this puzzle and you know that there's a solution to it. You have to find the solution. So I think activating that logical part of my brain after so long just was exactly what I needed to separate myself from that emotional side of my brain that had been so engaged. So that's definitely not a scientific explanation, but that's just how I feel that it's helped me.
Hey, I think it works well. So why did you choose the Flatiron School?
I chose it because there's a couple of reasons. I had started doing their accelerated prep boot camp, and I had tried out some other programs, and some of them, it was like, I don't know, like someone was scratching their fingernails across a board because it was painful for me to go through them. And then also their dean, Avi Flombaum, was incredibly supportive of me from the beginning of my journey. And so knowing that they had a curriculum that suited my needs, that I enjoyed waking up every morning to work on, and then also having a dean who cared about his students, who was interested in building a community of people, not just individual coders, it seemed like the perfect environment for what I was looking for, and I would say what anybody who's coming into development as a second career would be looking for.
Okay, well, great. So you mentioned before that you're working with Moms That Code. Is that
Moms
correct?
Can Code.
Oh, sorry,
yeah.
Moms Can Code. What is what is Moms Can Code, and what are you working with them on?
Yeah, so they are a global co-learning community. So it's mostly a bunch of moms at all different points in their careers. So some of us are changing careers or just starting careers or coming back to it after years of being at home with kids. So it's a support network of people who are learning. So we do a lot of learning sessions, and they're offering free courses right now in a bunch of different things. So from basics all the way up to game development to React. And then the challenge that I'm offering is a beginner blockchain challenge. So we're looking at the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, but we're focusing on Ethereum and Solidity because I enjoy learning about that, and I see that there's a lot of potential in what I would like to be doing, in terms of developing things. So, it's a 30-day challenge. It's got curated, readings, videos, and coding challenges to kind of get an overview of what you can do with, Ethereum.
Wow, that's wonderful. And so is this, I guess you have to be, I would say, a mom to be part of this organization and then learn these, or how does membership work?
You do not have to be a mom. So one of the great things is, we're a lot of moms doing it, but there are some men who are members. There are supportive people who are members. So, hey, mom, I want to support you, or I want to grow with you. I want to understand the challenges that you're facing. So I'd love to be part of this community. So anyone can join. And I think that's what helps moms' voices get heard even more when we are inviting everybody to be part of the community.
Oh, definitely. And why did you choose blockchain for your 30-day challenge?
I think I was really interested in blockchain. My husband had been doing crypto zombies, and he mentioned it to me. And at the time, I was learning JavaScript, and so I started doing it and thinking, wow, this really makes sense. But also, I think what I had gone through with my trauma made it really easy for me to see how blockchain could have potential in preventing things like the trauma that had happened to me. Because one, I think the medical record system was really terrible and at fault for what happened to me. I had a C-section, 7 years prior to this, to my fourth child. And that's what caused, my rupture because of where the incision was for the C-section. And so I felt that, one, if there was a centralized place for medical records that would help us to look at the data and to say, okay, she's definitely at risk for this. There are some extra tests that we can run to make sure that nothing bad happens. Because quite honestly, it was a miracle that I lived through what happened. And that's not going to be the same for everyone else. And so I felt like, okay, this could definitely be run on blockchain. We can have records like this, that are easily transferable, easily accessed. And for me, that made sense. Let's put healthcare in a place that we can all have access to it, which I know is way more complicated than that. But for me, I'm about like this is a possible application. Sure. And for a lot of moms too, who are doing freelance work, there's definite potential in running it on the Ethereum platform where they know that they're going to, have a contract, and when they complete the contract, they're going to get paid, because nothing's worse than spending your time doing a project that someone doesn't pay you for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's absolutely amazing. Are you, so with your own, I guess, journey in this, obviously you're very, very busy. What does your average day look like? And do you have any like time management type kind of techniques or skills or routines? Because, you're a working mother, 4 kids, that's a lot.
Yeah. Yes, it definitely is a lot. And for me, I'm a morning person. So to wake up by 5 or 5:30 every morning and get those couple of hours of coding in while my kids are still asleep, it's essential. If I don't get that time, it's definitely more difficult for me to get through the day, because it allows me to kind of focus myself and center on something logical, something that I'm doing for myself. And then when the kids wake up, it's a lot of like making snacks. Somebody is crying, so I'm dealing with that. But it's just a lot of, trying to be with my kids and be present. I try and take some time at lunchtime. My youngest still naps, so I'll put her to sleep, and then I'll get